I do.
Well, I will say this. It that this cold came up on me yesterday and I started losing my voice, and I actually had to teach my Tai Chi class yesterday afternoon in a really soft voice. And I felt like a different person because I'm not a quiet person. I talk loud. So, but that was the only way I could have a voice. So this morning it's better, but my ears are like clogged. Y'all know that feeling? And I
Yes.
have done one of those lymphatic massages where you just rub and rub. Hold on, let me let Mr. Ken in and rub down and try to bring all that fluid down. And this lymph node right here is just a little bit swollen. So hopefully I can work that out. But I tell you what, this is what I want to share with y'all today. It's all about our attitude, right? We choose whether we're going to have a bad one or a good one. When we wake up in the morning, we might feel a little ugh. We may feel a little stuffed up. We might not be able to breathe out of both nostrils. And we could say to ourselves, I don't feel good. I'm just going to stay in bed all day.
Been there, done that.
I could have done that. And there are some days when you have to. You have to stay in bed. I mean, especially when you start running a fever and your body hurts all over, you have to, and you also have a social responsibility to not go out and about in the world if you're running fever, right?
Correct.
Oh, good. We have everybody here today. Hold on. Mr. Ken wanted me to change his name. Ah, Renee. Okay. So we'll just have our first name. There. Voila, the magic of computers. Um, so anyway, social responsibility, if you really are contagious sick, like running a fever, and not only that, you just have to let your body heal sometimes. But the message I'm trying to tell y'all is this. Sometimes you just got to get up and say, well, today I was going to lift weights. I had a certain program that I wanted to do before I came to work. I knew that I wasn't 100%. I said, I can still do those movements, but I'll just do body weight exercises. So I'm not putting that extra work on my body, but I'm still moving it. So that's what I did. I went to the gym and, did less, but I did. And then I got ready for work. And so I just kept going and made the decision that, not every day I'm going to feel my best, but that doesn't mean I have to give in and not do.
True.
So maybe that's inspirational. My head's
Well, you
clogged
made
up a
up
little
for it.
bit.
You made up for it. Your hair is beautiful today.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. Was it in this class last week when I shared the YouTube page? Somebody said, "Oh, look, you fixed your hair." I said I do that every now and again.
Uh,
It's a lot of work to fix hair. And when you go to the gym before work, it's just that much more time. So anyway, with that said, let us get started. I'm so glad y'all are all here today. That's exciting. We have 100% attendance. Um, all right, now we're ready. So let's start off just like we always do, open and closing our hands. This is tissue in my pocket. I'm going to pull it out. And I may have to use it, so y'all just excuse me. But we're walking around, just getting our bodies warmed up, getting our bodies ready for exercise. We know that if we're going to commit to moving, we want to warm up our muscles to lessen our chance of injury. We don't want, and we're back to cold weather. We had summertime. last Thursday through Saturday, and now we're back to winter. So we have to work a little extra hard to get our bodies warmed up whenever it's cold outside. I hope that y'all got to go out and enjoy that weather. I know I just stood outside and let the sun just kiss my face because I was so happy that it was sunshiny and warm. It was such a nice change. I'm plumb miserable when it's cold outside. And I've read this week that we have officially made it over the hump of the longest dark days, the longest days of dark. I don't know. You know how as we go through the winter solstice, the days get shorter, and then they start getting longer again. We've made it past that, and we're headed towards the direction of the long days of sun, and I'm so thrilled about that because I definitely struggle with what they call SAD. Y'all know what that is? Seasonal affective
disorder.
I really, really struggle. Excuse me, hold on. First of all, I don't like cold weather. And second of all, I really like warm. I really like the sun. Let me just stick to Tai Chi, okay, y'all? Let me not try to give y'all a science lesson of daylight hours. Because apparently I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. All right, here we go. Let's get in our nice stable stance. Our feet are about shoulder width or hip width apart. Our weight is on both legs. We have a soft bend in our knee. That was something else I was going to tell y'all is this morning I ran into something at the gym and right in my knee. And so my knee is just kind of throbbing from banging it into that. So sometimes I think God gives me pains in my bodies when I teach Tai Chi to remind me of what some of my people are experiencing as we do Tai Chi. So in a weird way, I'm thankful for that. We have good posture, like a string that pulls up to the ceiling and down to the floor. Our shoulders are nice and relaxed. We're breathing, right? And we want to remind ourselves to breathe throughout, not hold our breath. Let's start with our neck. Our hands come up towards our chin and chest. We push away from our bodies and follow those hands all the way down. Bring our hands back up towards our chin and chest. Push away from our bodies and follow those hands all the way down. Our other exercise for our neck starts out that same way. We drop one hand to the hip and follow this one as we look towards that shoulder, feeling that slight stretch, coming back to center, switch hands. Side to side. The more you do this movement, the more flexible your neck will be, helping you be more mobile, and you can be a safer driver. We talked about that last week. Now let's roll our shoulders. Small circles forward. Draw those little circles on the sides of my legs. And then roll those shoulders back. Probably feels like a little massage you give yourself. Rolling forward may feel a little awkward, but we always do that first. And then we roll back second. And that even helps reset our posture if we've gotten bad posture. And just sitting around, often in our lazy chairs. Now let's bring our hands up and push them down in front of us. Inhale up and exhale as we push down. Or our spine. We grab our ball. We're going to separate the heavens and the earth. Push one hand down towards the ground, keeping the soft bend in our elbow. The other hand follows our spine up and pushes up towards the ceiling. Separating those hands, stretching that spine, and then coming back to our ball and switching. Now, as far as breath, inhale as you come to your ball, exhale as you separate. To our ball, let's take it for a ride, side to side, turning that torso to just above that knee, switching hands and coming back across. Remember, this gets us ready for that waving hands and clouds movement that hopefully we'll get to today. I don't see why not. Even if we don't master the movement today, and that's the great thing about Tai Chi, is that there's really no perfect Tai Chi. There's no mastering Tai Chi. It's simply a journey in Tai Chi. And so where you are today and where you are in a year, where you are in 4 months, where you are in 3 years with it, it's the same movements, but your level of understanding of it changes as you learn the movements better. So that's the beauty of it. We don't strive for perfection. We strive for the understanding of the movements and just the repetition and practice. Now go into our lower body. And so we're going to start switching weight here. And if you are seated, then your movements are a little bit different than if you're standing. And so I'll talk you through those. So first, we will shift our weight to one leg. We place our heel out forward and our hands back. And this is what it looks like if you're seated. But if you're seated, you'll come back to center and you can bring your hands up. If you're standing, you'll place your toe back at like a kickstand out to the side with your hands forward. Come back to center, heel forward, hands back, pause in the middle, and toe back, hands forward. Check your posture. Make sure you're standing upright, not leaning with the movement. Also, make sure you're not holding tension in your shoulders. Back to center. Now shift the weight to the other foot. Shift, heel forward, hands back, pause in the middle, and toe back, hands forward. I have a nice soft bend in my knee that helps me absorb the movement. When I've done 3, because that leg starts screaming at me. Now let's shift our weight from side to side. We're going to shift our weight, place our hands, they're stacked like this, and they go in the direction of the weight shift, and they stop at our frame, the edge of our bodies. What we're not doing is bringing our hands way out here, and you see my body started leaning as I brought those hands outside of my frame. So a lot of times we'll think, I have to do more because more is better. In Tai Chi, it's important that we practice upright posture. The weight shift, we stop here. So actually leaning is a bad thing because that takes us towards falling, which goes against what we're trying to do here. So shift the weight, and once the weight is shifted, lift and tap that toe out. If you're seated, and I'm going to actually demonstrate this one, I suggest this movement for everybody, even if you're able to do these standing movements. You take the hands in the direction of the weight shift. So this foot would be pressed into the floor. This foot represents the foot that steps out, but you'll lay that knee out and you'll feel a slight stretch in the hip flexor. So everybody can benefit from a stretch of their hip flexor. So shift the weight. So I'm pushing this foot into the floor and then leaning that knee out to feel that stretch in my hip flexor. So that's this movement seated. So it looks pretty different, I think. It also feels different. But when we're standing, we get the experience of the weight shift. How we replicate that when we're seated is pushing a foot into the floor to engage muscle. So however you do it, shift the weight, tap out, bring it back, change hands, shift, lift and tap, bring it back, change, shift, lift and tap. Side to side. Felt myself getting kind of in a hurry right there, but I need to remind myself to be slow, smooth, continuous. That's the nature of our movement in Tai Chi. So let's say that you're most comfortable doing this seated. You're kind of scared to do that standing, but you want to push yourself. You know, I always encourage you to push yourself just a little bit. When you push yourself outside of your comfort zone a little bit, that's where you start to grow. So I'm not encouraging you to do anything that's unsafe. However, I do encourage you to push yourself a little bit so that you can give it a try and prove to yourself that maybe you can do more than what you think. So this is where I suggest skip that hand movement. Just skip it. Grab your chair, shift the weight. Even if I'm not holding the chair, just having my hands there for just in case. I'm shifting the weight. I'll move the chair now. We're going to pretend the chair's invisible. My invisible chair. Shift the weight, but notice I'm not lifting and stepping my foot out, but I am shifting weight. Keeping my upright posture, I'm not leaning. My chair's there just in case. I'm simply shifting weight, okay? So if you're most comfortable seated and you start thinking, maybe I'd like to try standing, start there. Start with just that simple weight shift side to side without picking up that foot. Because that's big time bravery for you to lift that foot and tap it out. That's very brave, especially if you're scared. Now, a lot of times, because people are scared they're going to fall, they limit their activity. That's understandable, right? Because we're self-preservationists. We do what we have to do to take care of ourselves. And so we get that in our head, and then we don't do things because we're scared. And then when we don't do things, our muscles get weaker. And when our muscles get weaker, we increase our chance of falls. So that's why challenging yourself just a little bit is important. even with the safety of a chair. Safety of this table here. This table's not going anywhere. Maybe the safety of the wall. To shift the weight from foot to foot, just to practice the weight shift. All right, so next is for our knees. So we have our loose fist, like we're holding an egg and we don't want to break it. I like mine down by my hips. You might like yours a little higher, as long as you're not holding any tension in your shoulders. That's what's important. So we're going to shift the weight to one leg. We're going to lift, tap, and punch, and bring it back. Shift, lift, tap, and punch. Imagine if you're seated, you're just going to put that toe out in the air as you punch the opposite foot. If you are lifting that foot up, seated, then pushing the stable leg into the floor will actually help you. Our next exercise for our knee, we step out forward. Now, if you're seated, you're not going to step out of your chair. So for this movement, just like this time you put your toe out in the air, this time you'll place your heel out forward. But for those of us standing, we'll shift the weight, step out, small step, heel toe. We're going to keep both feet flat on the floor as we shift forward and punch opposite hand. Bring it back, feet side by side. Shift, step, heel toe, shift and punch. Bring it back, feet side by side. Shift, step, shift and punch. Bring it back, side by side. Shift. Lots of weight shifting going on here. Again, this is one you can hold your chair and shift side to side and shift front and back in that staggered stance. And that gets your hip flexor, your leg muscles, all the different parts of the muscle that supports our joints, helps it get stronger by shifting weight front and back and side to side. All these warm-up movements are intended to get us ready for our Tai Chi. So there's a lot of similarities in the movements we do warming up that we do in our Tai Chi. Next is for our ankles. We don't have any hand movements. If you're seated, you can just roll your ankles both at the same time in the air. You can rock them, paddle them, do windshield wipers. You can do one at a time, but if we're standing, we got to shift the weight to one foot and rock it heel toe. Rock that foot heel toe. Bring it back, shift the weight, and rock the other foot heel toe. Bring it back, shift the weight. Now big toe, little toe. So we're taking that foot side to side. Working on the flexibility of our ankle joint that helps us improve our mobility. Bring it back, shift the weight, and the other foot, little toe, big toe. Oh, I feel a sneeze coming on. Everybody's a little shake. We are ready for Tai Chi, right? I think we are. Hold on.
Oh,
Oh, serious, wasn't it, y'all? All right. So we're ready for our Tai Chi series of movements. Last week, or in the last couple of weeks, we've done commencement, open and close, and single whip. So let's review those. Commencement. This is the only movement that we don't do both ways. Typically in our Tai Chi, when we do something to the right, we do it to the left. But in this commencement movement, it's a step forward. We shift to the right, we step left, we shift left, and bring that right foot forward. Remember, if you're seated, simply push those feet into the floor. Push one, release, push the other, release. So you're going back and forth, engaging muscle. And you can go at a pace that you're comfortable. Find your own rhythm with it. But standing, we shift right, we step left, we shift left, bring the right foot forward. And remember, when we step, it's an empty step. So we place our foot on the floor, but we don't immediately give it weight. Place the foot, then shift the weight, bring the right foot forward, empty step again, and then even out the weight to where it's on both feet. Our hand movements guide us to when we shift that weight. So the hand movements by themselves, of course, we start with our hands to our side. Our hands are going to face each other the whole time. So we bring those hands up, down, and we kind of draw a U, or I always say bring them in and up. But when we go down, it's like we're drawing a U. Then we take our hands out and back in. So remember the soft bend. So we have that nice song or open joint, and that good energy can flow. So even though we're out, we're not out. So it's bring the hands up, down, finish drawing that U, out, and back in. How does it connect with our feet? Our hands come up. Now, when they go down, that's when we shift to our right leg. Shift to the right. Now, step left, empty step as we finish that U. Shift left as those hands go out. Bring the right foot forward. Hands come back. Now I have weight on both feet. Open and close, our second movement. All right, let's do it again. Commence. Up, down, shift right. Step left, hands come in and up. Shift left as they go out. Right foot forward, hands come back. Open and close. Single whip, our third movement. The first time we do single whip and waving hands in clouds, we go to the right, and then we'll do it to the left. So I'm scooched over here so I can have the space there. So we're here at open and close. Our weight is on both feet. I shift left and I step out right. You see that slight angle, about a 45-degree angle. And when I stepped out at that 45-degree angle, it automatically turned my body to that direction. Now, if you're seated, you're not going to step out because I don't want you to fall out your chair. But you can adjust weight accordingly, shift weight, and then shift the weight back and forth. You can purposely move your body to that angle, or you can keep your body out forward, whatever makes you feel most stable and comfortable. But standing, our movement looks like this. Shift left, step out right, adjust weight. And that means put weight on both feet. Now, something to do with our hands. Push those hands out away from us, maintaining the soft bend in our elbow, turning our hands away from us, and then separating them. Our eyes follow that left hand. Let me get away from the wall a little bit so I can do that full extension. So here's what it looks like. Shift, step, adjust weight, push, turn, separate. I'm glad I have 3 boxes of Kleenexes in here. All right. That's the single whip movement. Shift, step, adjust weight, push, turn, separate. Single whip. Now, the next part of this movement that transitions us into waving hands and clouds, I never know if it's part of single whip or if it's part of waving hands and clouds. But nonetheless, it prepares us to go into waving hands and clouds. And so what that movement is, once we separate here, right now weight is on both of our feet, right? We're going to shift left, and we're going to bring our right foot and right hand back. When I call it back, but your hand comes down to your hip and your right foot does come back. This hand stays up. That's that transition movement that gets us ready for waving hands and clouds. So when we brought that right foot back, we're going to immediately step it out. And you see when I stepped out, I'm wider than hip width. So that's the first movement of waving hands and clouds. But for now, let's do those 3 moves together. Commencement, open and close, and single whip. From the top, and commence. And close. Single whip. So that is our first 3 moves. Let's do it again. Commence. Down. Step. Shift as they go out. Right foot forward. Hands come back. Open and close. Single whip. Shift. Step. Push. Turn. Separate. Shift. Right foot, right hand back. To get us ready for waving hands and clouds. And I just stepped on out because, let's face it, being in this position is not a stable stance. So as we learn it, it feels like we're here a lot longer than we are when we're actually doing the series of movements. In the series of movements, it looks more like, so see, it's kind of a pause and a step out. It's all one motion. That may not be comfortable for everybody to do, to pull it back all the way here. You may like to just step out and back to hip width apart. So we always want to listen to our bodies and do what feels safe for us. Dang, we're doing real good on time today. I'm proud of us. We'll have a lot of time to practice this movement. And waving hands and clouds, to me, it is, I hate to pick, I'm not going to pick a favorite, but what I like about it is it's an opportunity for us to practice many of our principles with weight transfer, upright posture, slow, smooth, and continuous, those open joints. And it's a nice, relaxing movement to do. So that's what it looks like. This right here is the words for our waving hands and clouds. So we do 4 things in this move: step, switch, turn, shift. And if you can see that I have brackets drawn with 2 words, that's because you can do these at the same time. In the name of moving in the direction of slow, smooth, and continuous, we can step and switch at the same time, and we can turn and shift at the same time. What I tend to do is step and switch at the same time, turn by itself, and then shift at the end of my turn. So that's what works best for me, but you can find what works best for you. You can forever do one thing at a time, and there's nothing wrong with that. So the one thing at a time looks like this. So we finished single whip, we've come here, and there's that first step. So I step out. The switch, my hands go from here to here. What's going to happen with the with our legs in this movement is we're walking sideways. So to break it down between feet and hand or arm movements, the footwork is step out further than hip width apart, shift, follow step, now I'm at hip width apart, shift, step, shift, follow step, shift, step, shift, follow step, shift, step, shift, follow step. So that was 3 steps to the right. It was a step and a follow step. You can count 3 or you can count 6. I'm more successful when I count 6. When I count 3, I'm like, was that 2 or 3? It's okay if you only do 2. It's great if you do 3. If you do 4, then big whoop-de-doo. The Tai Chi police will not come and arrest you, I promise. But that is probably one thing I consistently do is I'm wondering if if I've done too many or not enough. So we're Tai Chi walking to the side. I step right, shift right, step left, shift left, step right, shift right, step left, shift left, step right. See, I can't talk and count. I think that's where I go wrong. I can't do all that. Shift, step, shift. So just keep doing it till you hit a wall, or in my case, a table. But that's Tai Chi walking. The more experience we get with weight transfer, the stronger our muscles will be. So to Tai Chi walk without any hand movements is very beneficial to you. When we wave hands in clouds, the first one, like I said, is to the right. Step, follow step, shift. There's 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 6 steps. Just practice stepping out. What I want you to do while you're practicing is step out and follow step in just the amount of space that feels comfortable, okay? So if I tell you when you step out to step out wider than hip width, and when I say follow step or step in and you're at hip width, that might not be what feels most stable and comfortable for you. Now, I notice when I'm doing waving hands in clouds, my feet are a little bit closer than that hip width apart and shoulder, farther than hip width apart and then hip width apart. I feel most stable with my feet a little bit closer. So as you practice, the main thing is is for you to get a feel for what feels most stable for you, the amount of space. It is not likely that you're going to feel most stable if your feet are right beside each other. It's not likely that you're going to feel most stable stepped way out like this. You're going to have a hard time going places stepped out this far. You have to really kick yourself off. So that's the footwork of step. Here's the step, shift, there's the shift. So step and shift, those are our footwork. Switch and turn is our handwork. I'm going to step closer and show you handwork. When we step right, we're going to turn right. So we step right and then it's time to turn. Hand placement. One hand is right here by my hip. So I'm not just hanging it to the side. It's engaged down here by my hip. So that's my left hand. My right hand is going to be cross body. I always think of that as a sash. And then I'm going to turn. So when I turn, it's just like when I was holding my ball and I moved my torso. Turn. Now it's ready for that word up there that says switch. So this hand that's up is going to come down, and this hand is going to come up like the sash. So I think of those as my corners. When I'm here, I'm at that corner, I switch. I turn, I get to that corner, I switch. Turn, switch. So you see, switch, turn. Switch, turn. Switch, turn. Switch, turn. Switch, turn. So it's kind of like Karate Kid, where he does wax off, wax on, wax off, wax on. You remember that movie?
Yeah, we did.
It's kind of like that. You see the similarities between that wax on, wax off, and turn, switch. Also see the similarity to the spinal warm-up where we had our ball. So see, it's our torso that moves for both, and it's our hands that just go along for the ride. So it's not a hand movement, it's a torso movement. And the name of the movement is waving hands in clouds. So when you think wave, you think this, wave, hey. And used to, if I wrote this down on a paper, I would write wave, step, switch, wave, shift. But when I joined SOWEGA, they used the word turn, and I was like, wow, that makes so much more sense, because that's what we do is turn. You know, we're not waving, we're turning. I mean, the name of the movement is Wave Hands in Clouds. I have this here. That's my big poster. But I've had this so long, the stickies almost wore off. I've written the same things, step, and beside it, it says empty, reminding us to not immediately give it weight. Switch or change hands. Turn or wave. Shift, and then that says wait. So these words are very helpful to me. Not especially when I was learning the movements, but still, I like having them there because this movement is our first introduction into some more complicated moves where things are happening at the same time. So, waving hands and clouds. We're coming from single whip where we're here. Now we step and switch, turn, shift. And that's what I'm talking about, where what works for me is I finish the turn and then I shift. Then I step and switch, turn, then I shift. I like doing it that way. But what you could do is step, switch, turn, shift. Step, switch, turn, shift. Step, switch, turn, shift. Step. So you're doing one word at the time. And that's a good thing to do in the beginning. You're totally breaking it down movement by movement. Well, when you get more practice, you can step and switch. You can turn and shift at the same time. Turn and shift. Step and switch. Turn and shift. Step and switch. Turn and shift. Turning and shifting at the same time makes me feel unstable. So any way to do it, the three different ways I just told you, they're all correct. You pick what works best for you. In the beginning, and what I did in the beginning was one at the time, because it was too much for me to try to do two things at one time. I was just trying to learn. But then when I started putting these two together, I said, turning and shifting at the same time, I didn't feel like I was getting the proper things out of that turn. Well, what are we supposed to get out of that turn? It's a torso movement. What we want to be able to do is engage our core muscles. So engage the muscles that are in our stomach, the muscles that are in our back, and let those muscles tighten up as we push our body to the side. And I felt like when I was shifting, I wasn't able to tighten those muscles. I was too worried about the shift, and I didn't do the torso movement as well. But that's just me. Like I said, you can decide what works best for you. The step and the switch, that goes perfectly for me. So we're step and switch, turn, shift. And that shift is kind of like the end of the movement. Let's start all over. Step and switch, turn, shift. Get done with that sixth, we come back to the middle for open and close. Excuse me. All right, let's put it together from the top. Commencement, open and close, single whip, and waving hands and clouds to the right. From the top. And commence. Hands come up, down, shift right. Step left, hands come in and up. Shift left as they go out. Right foot forward, hands come back, adjust that weight, open and close. Single whip, shift left, step right, adjust weight, push, turn, separate, following that left hand. Waving hands and clouds. Step and switch, turn, shift. step and switch, turn, shift, step and switch, turn, step and switch, turn, shift, two more, step and switch, turn, shift, step and switch, turn, back to the center, open and close. Now what's next? Single whip and waving hands and clouds to the left. What does that look like? This time we shift right, step left, adjust weight. Push, turn, separate, this time following the right hand. Waving hands and clouds. We step, switch, turn, shift, 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 step, switch, turn, and to the middle for open and close. Close it out. Those are our basic 6 movements. And those are the movements that we're going to work and practice and get better at. We're going to practice those movements. Number 1, learning them. That's a big accomplishment in knowing even how to do it. So if I say, okay, do commencement, do you even know what that is? So learning the movement has to happen first before we can really go and explore the movement with our different principles. On the YouTube page, there's under the Tai Chi playlist, there is a video for commencement that's just dedicated to commencement. There's a video just dedicated, surprisingly, to open and close. There's a video just for single whip. Just a video for waving hands and clouds. So we want to learn the movement and get good at that movement before we can explore them. And so that's our goal here. So I've introduced you to all the movements. And this is the part where you go, oh gosh, that's a lot. I don't think I can do this. But yes, you can. You should be a little overwhelmed because this is probably something you've not done before. And so anytime we learn something new, it is a little overwhelming, but we break down the parts and we practice them one at a time. So we first start with our commencement movement, and we know that's a step forward. We shift right, we step left, we shift left, we bring the right foot forward. We got that. We know how to step forward. We can practice that weight shift to the side and then to the front. We got that. We can practice just the hand movement where we know our hands face each other that whole time. We're going to think about keeping that soft bend in our elbow. We may even think about that wrist movement. So when our hands come up, our fingers may point more down. So there's a little movement in our wrist. And when our hands go down, our hands point a little bit towards the ceiling. So there's that kind of flick of our wrist, which gives it some movement. So we practice the hand movement. Up, down, finish the U, or in and up. Out, back in, and then of course our second movement, open and close. It's easy to just throw those 2 in together. And then like I said, practice both parts of it, the footwork, the handwork. And then practice putting them together. And you can break down the parts of it. So when you start, when you bring those hands up, nothing's happening with your legs. Your weight is on both feet. Up, down, shift right. So you can just practice that together. Up, down, shift right. So now you're getting the feel for putting the feet and the hands together. Practice that a few times. And then throw in your step. Down, step. Up, down, step. And just keep adding it from there as you feel comfortable to where you're up, down, shift right, step left, hands come in and up, shift left as the hands go out, right foot forward, hands come back. Commence up, down, shift right, step left, hands come in and up, shift left as they go out, right foot forward, hands come back, open and close. You'll feel really good about those two movements real quick and in a hurry. Practice those two. Time check. Then start with your single whip. Step, adjust weight, push, turn, separate, following the left hand, keeping in mind that you still want to open both hands, even though your eyes are only are on your left one when you do this one to the right. Waving hands in clouds. There's that transition movement. Step and switch, turn and shift, or turn, shift. Close. Single whip, shift, step, adjust weight, push, turn, separate, following that right hand. Transition movement, waving hands in clouds, step, switch, turn, shift, 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 step, switch, turn, and to the middle for open and close. Any questions? Okay, good. Let's give ourselves a fist massage. It's time to cool down. Tell our legs thank you for working so hard. Now I want you to gather tension and release the tension. Gather, always recognize when you're holding tension so you can let it go. Gather and release. Inhale up and push down as you exhale. Up and down. Up, down. Let's do one more. Inhale up, exhale down. We take our right hand that represents and make a fist, a loose fist that represents our strength. Our fingers all together on our left hand represents our friendship. Our thumb it is built in, isn't it? I'm so glad it's built in. Bent in represents our humility. strength, friendship, and humility. Put those together, and in mutual respect, we say namaste. So thank y'all. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you for enduring the class when I know you wasn't at your best, but you did great for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharita. Yeah, this is really the first time I've talked today. I haven't had anybody to talk to. I didn't realize my voice was bad as it is. It does not sound good. But I'm going to make it. I'm going to soldier through. But y'all have a great week. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here for you. And if not, I'll see you next Tuesday.
See you on Friday.
Ma'am.
Hope you feel better.
Thank you, Miss Vivian. I love y'all.
Bye-bye.
Feel better by Friday.
Thank you. I will. I'm feeling it. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.